There's been a lovely shift to help support hybrid work is really leaning into human-led design. So it's really thinking about designing the space around the human's activities or needs or how they complete their work, because we all are very different. Instead of just looking at status or team needs, it's looking at the individual.
Hello, and welcome to the Future of Work podcast. In this episode, we're exploring the ever-evolving world of workplace strategy with Kari Smith, director at JL's Work Dynamic Consulting. With over 2 decades of experience, Kari sheds light on how companies are shifting from traditional office setups to more flexible, human-centric environments. We explore the rise of hybrid work, the role of technology in designing future workplaces, and how change management plays a crucial role in these transformations. As hybrid work becomes the norm, how will your company adapt its space to meet the needs of a diverse and increasingly mobile workforce? Join us and find out.
Kari, welcome to the Future Work Podcast. It's really great to have you here, especially considering all the amazing work that you've been doing with JLL. Can you tell us in a little more detail, a little more granular detail, what you actually do for JLL? I mean, your bio is amazing, but tell us what you're actually doing and how it works.
Of course, Frank. And thank you for this opportunity to be on this amazing podcast. I am a director at JLL within their consulting group within Work Dynamics. And what I specialized in is change management and change leadership. So I'm incredibly passionate about helping clients through different workplace strategy and the adoption of that strategy as they're looking at implementing hybrid work or a variety of different strategies within their organization. And I really focus more on the change leadership side of things versus the workplace strategy side of things. Is I really love connecting with the human element and helping clients really help that adoption of those shifts in the future of work and really seeing it come to life with the end user. And that is incredibly rewarding.
Well, change management in large organizations is about the hardest thing to deal with. You have to get everybody that was marching in a circle to march in a straight line or marching back and forth to all go the same direction. And at multiple layers, because I know you guys deal with very large corporations, especially when you have to not just shift people, but shift facility with people. That
Mhm.
can be a massive task.
Yes, it can, but it is so rewarding when you have an incredibly good leadership that is helping to lead the change within the organization, and that great connection with the team to help with that implementation. That is one thing I find incredibly exciting and rewarding.
The change that you're dealing with is changing from traditional status role-based office layouts, things of that nature, to more human-based design, things that have to do with office layouts that really change the way we work, not just change the space, but the entire organizational structure of companies sometimes, and the roles that people play. With hybrid work coming along, remote work, all the things that are outcome from before and during the pandemic, how is that shift to human-based design versus facility role-based design really working? Is it 10% of the companies, 100% of the companies, 10% of the space, 90% of the space? What impact is this having?
Yeah, I at JLL, we are seeing majority of our clients come to us now really as they finalize their future workplace strategies or their future of work and looking for help with the implementation of those changes. So majority of clients are shifting to that hybrid working and not having assigned spaces and as however we call it, like is it activity based or is it unassigned or mobility, and really implementing that strategy moving forward, which I find incredibly exciting. I personally haven't had an assigned desk since 2006. So it is a preferred way of working And I love helping companies through that journey. So it's really great since the pandemic, we've seen the adoption of this type of working in a hybrid way and not having that assigned office or workstation to individuals has really shifted.
Well, define, you reference hybrid work.
Yeah.
That's a term that a lot of people bandy around and everything. Give me your definition of what hybrid work is. Let's agree on a definition there so that everybody understands exactly what we're talking about uh,
Mhm.
in that context. How does JLL see hybrid work functioning?
So JLL sees hybrid work as being able to have that flexibility and choice to come into the office not just 5 days a week, but you work within your organization on what those guidelines are, working some hybrid, or excuse me, working some virtual and working some in person to best align with your team's needs, your enterprise needs, and individual
But you
needs.
have to be scheduling that activity. Otherwise, you're going to have traffic congestion, everybody showing up at the same time at the same place for the same desk. So
Yes,
there's processes for that. Um,
definitely.
are you seeing companies make a recommendation, say, well, we want our hybrid work to look like 2 days a week in the office, 2 days a week, maybe at a third workplace, and one day a week at home, or some mix? How are you seeing that? Because hybrid isn't just remote work and then come into the office occasionally.
Correct. Yeah, you're seeing a lot of organizations are defining what their hybrid work is for them right now. We're seeing that being implemented. Most clients that I've been talking to, and a lot of the industries I've been supporting in the last 3 years, have been automotive or financial industries. And we're seeing a lot of those industries finding their sweet spot for hybrid is the 3 days a week, which majority of organizations are moving towards. Some, I would say, like the auto would be more two. So they're having a little bit more flexibility on what makes sense for them.
The 3 days a week leaves, unless you've really got a good calendar going,
Hmm.
organizational, and people stick to it. And that's part of an issue too, the flexibility people need. Um, can easily leave, if it's not well run, a lot of underutilized space. And we know
Yes.
that from the commercial real estate side of the world, which you guys are hugely involved in, um, that larger organizations, or all organizations, are reassessing their total space use. And in most cases, upon renewal of a lease, they're reducing the amount of space. Uh,
Yes.
so are you seeing material increases in space use efficiency, or is that still struggle? Because it wasn't particularly well used before. You have 40, 50% efficiency before. Are you gaining on that? So there's basically a lower cost of total allocable overhead per employee, the number that everybody shoots at. Is that improving?
Yes, we actually are seeing that improve with better alignment on policies, as you had mentioned before, with understanding what is that right balance for different team days, or what is, like, for example, I know of one client that's like Wednesdays is the day everyone's in, but they also know there might not be a workstation or an office for everyone, but there is a space for everyone.
Yes. What
Yeah.
would that space be? Because
Yeah.
space is defined. You have 10,000
Hmm.
office with 100 workstations in it. Um, if you've got 120 people there, what do? They line up along the wall?
No, there's been a lovely shift to help support hybrid work is really leaning into human-led design. So it's really thinking about designing the space around the human's activities or needs, or how they complete their work, because we all are very different. And instead of just looking at status or team needs, it's looking at the individual and thinking about what are the variety of different spaces that an organization should have on each floor, which goes to a variety of beyond the workstation, offices, and meeting rooms, which is your traditional programming. There, I've got a current client that I love their variety of spaces. They have a lot of individual spaces beyond the workstation, which is focus rooms. So everyone, regardless of their status, has the ability to have privacy on demand. with just light technology. So if they need to just do some quick heads down work while in the office, because that does happen, they have a space they can go to that it is actually non-reservable. They shut the door and they can use it to get, like, have to crunch on a PowerPoint or something like that.
And I'm not challenging. Yeah, I am
Mhm.
challenging this a little bit.
Sure.
Sounds to me like Mondays and Fridays are kind of boring around the office. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are you're looking for a desk and there may not be one, so you have to hustle. Um, that doesn't sound like we're gaining in efficiency and use. And I don't want to put you on the spot with that, but if you just look at the dynamics,
Hmm.
uh, that seems like that could easily be an outcome. That's if everybody's in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now, if some teams are in Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and some teams are in Monday,
Hmm.
Tuesday, Wednesday, then it mitigates itself. So how are you seeing that 3 days sort itself out?
You are seeing a lot of teams having that flexibility and not just having it the core Tuesday through Thursday to allow that need for, so for example, like Mondays and Fridays, we all know they're used less, but if teams need to come in and use those high demand spaces they might feel comfortable with, those might be the ones that they have focused team activities or things like that they come in for. But I also challenge you a little because everyone assumes everyone comes in and they really just want a workstation and or an
No,
office,
I agree with you. They
because
don't.
they
The
don't.
collaborative space is key. I was just going to say in the flexible
Yeah.
workspace sector, we're you used to build a single business center or a co-working center, let's say a full floor on an average building, 15, 18,000 feet. You used to build two um, moderate sized meeting rooms and one small working meeting room. So three, we'll just say three meeting rooms. Today, if you were to design that space, you'd build five or six.
Hmm.
Collaborative space is key, and it's not team workspace so much as
Correct.
meeting workspace, and people are working in collaborative space, not just meeting in it.
Yes. And there's also the having that huge variety of space that focuses around the activity, because I'm neurodivergent, so I think and work differently. So, Frank, I might have a favorite spot that you might think is horrible. It definitely helps if we look at it that human-led design approach, you'll have a good mix and ratio to support a variety of different needs. So for like myself, it depends on what I'm doing and how I'm feeling. And then I would choose the best space to support me at that hour, at during half of the day, but giving people that choice and flexibility to move around, that's when you find the really lovely balance of utilization, because it's the ebb and flow and not always is going to a workstation or an office, and you're seeing a lot of that more accepted. And then people really like when I was at a day one 2 weeks ago with a client, literally on the first day they moved in, they were working and meeting in, the commons area, the coffee area, and then even some in the classic library because they just needed to get away from other humans. They were adopting it already, and it was really exciting to see that people really crave that type of variety. It just takes them a little bit of time to adjust. And we're definitely seeing those spaces being used way more than they did 10 years ago. And there's a quicker adoption rate on that, which is really exciting.
Well, no, that is exciting. Space is fixed.
Hmm.
You say, I have a full floor in a building. I have 20,000 feet. Okay. And I've got 20,000 feet. I've got 200 people I have to accommodate if I'm going to max it out, or maybe 250 if we're using on a flex basis. Um, when you design that space for this human based work process, I know we used to use a simple formula or two that says X people equals Y workstations equals Z square footage and conference room.
Hmm.
We had different formulas that we all used. Um, what kind of shift or what kind of formula are you using in this new free floating model so that when space is created, because it's expensive to change,
Yeah.
you're talking about two types of change management. Oh, we're going to get everybody to change the way they work, and we're going to create new space. Oh, we goofed on the space. Now we have to get them to change the way they work again. It doubles down in the complexity if you don't get it right. So, what kind of formula are you using, and how future proof is it?
Ooh,
If you'd used whatever formula in 2018 to build new space, in all likelihood, you'd be rebuilding that space today.
I would agree.
Rebuilding your space every 5 years is very expensive for everyone. It's disruptive to work. It's expensive to both the occupier as well as the property company.
Hmm.
How do you create that value in a formula?
Yes. So the formula, you are correct, has definitely shifted to those very basic criteria. Um, so one thing that I have been using more and more as we've been leading more that hybrid and human-based design is really thinking about what we all know integrated technology is critical, and making sure spaces have some sort of technology, even if it's just to do our work, because everything is so, we're literally, our laptops are attached to us, unfortunately, or fortunately. um, so we always need some type of monitor, some type of spaces that have video capability or not. That is critical. And also making sure there's a variety of posture for folks. Some people want to be able to stand or some want to sit. But I think the other biggest shift is really thinking about the more the individual needs that they can choose to, and also the regional shifts. I did some extensive research a few years ago with a new grad, just understanding how different regions would shift on their different needs. For example, um, different states definitely adopted hybrid work versus others. And that I found so fascinating. For example, Texas definitely was a little bit less of adoption of hybrid work because a lot of folks came back right away and they didn't have as much of that need versus um, potentially some here. I'm based in Minnesota. There was a lot of hybrid shifts happening in the Minneapolis St. Paul area. So we definitely saw some of the regional shifts that I'm definitely making that more aware, especially if you create a global workplace strategy ratio program. You need to think about those shifts beyond in that regional level, and then also the team. So, for example, you can't just have one program that is one size fits all because we all know HR works so differently than IT or marketing or sales.
Because IT doesn't work at all, by the way.
Exactly.
I think you're right that the variety of challenges there based on different teams is certainly there. But is there a formula that is simple enough that a company can say, we're within 90%, because they have to go out and get that space
Hmm.
for X people, and they want to not overbuy or underbuy too much,
Hmm.
or they lose that efficiency. Is that formula drifting around out there in a simple way, or does it require an intensive doctoral study in order to figure it out? Because that's again massively time consuming, and if you get it wrong, doing it a second time is even more challenging.
There is definitely a starting line for that formula, but because every organization and every team and every person is different, and we're really wanting to do it right, um, taking the time to do extensive um, deep dives in workplace strategy with interviews and detailed programming and surveys and things like that can really help taking those small adjustments in those ratios to understand what those unique regional or team needs are, that you can dial it down and really get to that close, like 90 to 95% accuracy, to be able to make those good decisions for the real estate. Because we've been able to have that really good benchline after, or benchmark, excuse me, for creating that workplace strategy with the programming ratios, and then doing those simple things just to dial it in, really can help understand what is that right ratios for those different teams, and and then designing in a way that can, you can definitely do some minor tweaks that doesn't blow the budget, and also having some flexible furniture that can be able to adjust as people adjust as well.
Well, I get that. Our solution has been kind of odd, not odd, maybe a little bit different. We come from the flexible workspace industry, as most people
Hmm.
know, business centers, co-working centers, et cetera, 45 years of living in that world. And in our own, one of our corporate offices, both of our corporate offices, actually, our larger offices, one has around 50 people in it, the other got about 100 people in it. Um, we opted to not take permanent space, even though there's 100 people there.
Hmm.
Opted to take a significant amount of space, almost a full floor in one case, of a multi-floor business center.
Sure.
And that gives us what we say 30, 60, 90-day flux. We need to add people, we expand it like an accordion. We need we're moving people to another office, we can contract like that accordion on an ongoing basis. And we pay a little premium for the space itself. But for the flexibility and the movement, it's proven to be a very, very cost effective and simple approach for what is most people would think is large permanent space. We've been in one facility for 14 years.
Hmm.
So, a big long-term lease, full floor lease, all that sort of thing, but a lot of flexibility there, design-wise, that we can shift things around. And so we've found that to be a good solution. And I think too, we created a philosophy that you may or may not agree with. Back in 2015 or 16, we made a statement that there is no such thing as an occupier anymore. Period.
Yeah.
Everybody is a traveler.
Hmm.
We are all only travelers. And I'm working out of my home office today. Later today, I'll be working out of an airport. Then I'll be working out of a hotel. And tomorrow I'll be working at a remote office. Okay. So that is the ultimate traveler. But we all have 2, 3, or 4 places that we work from. They could be local or they could be long distance. So every one of us is a traveler. Every one of us is a digital nomad or LOMAD, local nomad, of some sort. And we have to look at that. To me, is the starting point for the solution structure as opposed to the space, is recognizing that we're all travelers and not occupiers anymore. And you made the comment about laptops stuck on our laps. This is embarrassing. I started with punch cards and mainframes, went to mini computers, went to desktops, and the first luggable that Compaq had was the size of a suitcase. Have migrated to laptops, and I'm now going to wearables. And I expect that with AI doing what it's doing, that before my career is over, I'll be using an implant of some sort. I
Yeah.
have no idea what. But there's your technology applied. And when you do that, how does that change the way people, how does that change human designed space? How does that change the requirements for space, that migration with technology? And when you have someone, famous Frank 2-part or 3-part question, sorry. When you have someone that is a traveler and
Hmm.
are using their laptop, well, let's say they're in a marketing department, they do design. Laptop processors, okay, but they need big screens and other tools, etc. How does that person work as a hybrid person? When they come into the office, does the workstation have those tools? Do they have a replicated set of those tools at home or at other places in their hybrid life cycle? If so, that's another layer of cost that's very expensive to not
Hmm.
acquire and maintain, but for the IT department to manage, especially IT departments right now are struggling with security.
Yeah.
Not connectivity so much, but security as a result of the ease of and variety of connectivity that we've got. Any thoughts on that, or you just want to say no, Frank, shut up? Uh, I'm happy either way, but these are things I
No,
worry about. I actually worry about these things.
no, it's a great point because we all have technology that we need to do our jobs for sure. And I think the unique challenge IT is definitely facing is that when folks come in, the travelers, to their hybrid work, um, different or different teams may actually use different technology. I know a lot of marketing or design tend to be Mac preferred versus
Yeah,
your normal Microsoft or HP or what have you. And
Bill Gates loves you, by the way.
I use both, so I. But that is a true need. Is we people have different types of devices. We need to be able to have the ability to. We all want bigger and better monitors. That's never going to go away. And we also need the ability to still have a camera as well. So I'm seeing the integration of bigger monitors with cameras, which I think is amazing because that was not something I saw in some clients just a few years ago.
That's my first full video set in 1982. It's been around for a long time. It's just been
But
very expensive to do in the early days.
not at I've not seen it at workstations as a norm for quite a bit. So that's been a lovely shift because you need to be able to have the easy plug and play that can support a variety of different technology. And it has to be, like I said, it has to be easy. Because if it's frustrating for anyone to come in, they're not going to come in.
Correct. Correct.
So it has to be seamless, it has to work instantly, and we can't have spaces that people have that preference of like, ooh, that's the upgraded station. I want to go there. We need to have a very balanced, if possible, so folks can find the space they prefer for their tech, but we just want to have it provided for most. Obviously, there's some times you don't want to have a big monitor, but having that variety is key, but having equality with tech and easeability, I think, is critical.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's funny. We used to have in our laptops, everybody had a 15 or 17-inch screen years ago. And then everybody went lighter weight, cooler for travel, lighter weight, faster because we were connecting the laptops to monitors.
Yeah.
And we thought, oh, I got a 30-inch monitor. It doesn't matter what size laptop it is. I just need a good keyboard. Now that we're moving around with our laptops again, I believe, this is just my guess, marketing guru for the tech industry, that larger laptops, I'll say 17-inch monitors, are going to come right back because we're going to be working more on the laptop then as we move around than just the monitor itself. It's not going to be as much plug and play as whatever I'm carrying becomes my workstation. So I think we may see that. Um, I won't have to ask about how do you manage, in the workstation environment, things like we're doing right now, because you'd have to move to, if you were in an office, to a private place in order to not disturb your colleagues and all that.
Mhm.
That's all pretty accepted, that we all know that we have to move to privacy sections if we're going to have things. I do think that, well, what we're carrying on today, you and I are 2,000, 2,500 miles apart,
Mhm.
never met. And yet, before the podcast, we were talking about our dogs.
Yes.
Okay, and our love for our pets and things of that nature. We can become very good friends and do real work by video now, overall. And before it was deemed awkward.
Yeah.
But I think our comfort level is increasing. And my dog just walked in, so I've got to pat him on the head or he'll jump on my desk. Uh, our comfort level and our being real, being genuine, authentic, as you said earlier, is very easy for us now,
Yeah.
and that is brings the technology much further than the technology itself.
I agree. And that also in the foreseeable future of work, I find incredibly hopeful and optimistic is um, just think of our the folks that are coming into the like the new grads and interns that are just coming into the work environment. I had the pleasure of working with four of them the last 3 years, and the amount of information that I learned from them, from it's been so powerful because, like you said, the ability to connect virtually and be authentic is two key things I'm seeing with that generation. Is they value it so much, and it's second nature to just be on camera.
think it's first nature. I think that if you deal with Gen Z and
Yeah.
we're not really dealing with alpha yet in business, but we're preparing for that.
Yep.
The reach for technology almost is it is absolutely first nature,
Yeah.
and it's not really seen as technology.
No.
Not really seen as something different that you have to do or learn or use or exploit. It's just a part of your nature
Yep.
overall, and I think that's good. I'm not sure because there's an isolationism also that comes with it socially,
True.
where if you don't call your friend or visit with your friend, you text your friend or you screen with your friend, and that's a whole different dynamic relationship that I think we need a bridge there somewhere personally. But then, I'm started with mainframes, that sort of thing. So I have it's for my generation certainly it's not native.
Yeah.
But when you talk about looking towards the future,
Yeah.
about looking towards you. Put your crystal ball out there for a second. Take some risk here and everything. How do you think, and what do you think we're going to learn from these emerging generations?
Yeah.
Let's focus on Gen Z because
Mhm.
they are the first hybrid generation of worker,
Yeah.
where hybrid is almost native, just like technology as a thought process. Where do you see the workplace going? Or do you see even the workplace existing? We've always said people, place, and technology create the foundation. But is place going to matter?
I do think place has its place. I do truly believe the office isn't going to die. It's not going to be extinct. And we are seeing it gradually morph to be that place of connection, because we are humans and connection is so critical. And I mean, I've been working remote for quite a while now, but I also really do miss that human connection. And a few weeks ago, I was able to meet most of my team, as we were launching a day one experience. And the ability, I've again been talking to these folks for over 6 months, but having that moment in person and be like, oh my gosh, Frank, you're real. It's so wonderful to see you in person. It energizes you for months.
I'm
I bet
purely,
you are.
I am purely an avatar.
But just having that human connection, we need that. So I don't think it's going to go away. It just organizations are going to figure out what that path is. And the Gen Z right now, they're coming in, they've lived, like you said, in a hybrid way. They've gone through school or university, virtually through the pandemic, and they're going to be our leaders in 2050 or what have you. And so just think of them leading with the mindset of that technology is truly just part of their being. And AI is just going to be a part of their life. They're building it now. They're designing it for us. So just think of what that's going to be. I don't know, but it's really quite exciting that I know there will be an office. It's going to be just very, very submersed with tech, and it might, and folks are going to have the ability to have inclusivity is the other thing I've seen with all four of these incredible humans that I've connected with over the last 3 years. Is each of them has taught me and brought something unique of themselves, that and that curiosity of just to question. They're not just accepting, they're also questioning, why are we doing it this way? So I was thinking as leaders in the future, things are going to continuously evolve because they are questioning and really value bringing your true self to work. So that to me is really, really exciting, um, to see what they will lead in the future.
When you have a generational shift like Gen,
Hmm.
um, and we say they will be the leaders in the future, well, if everybody's going to be Gen Z in the future. If you went out to 2050, I think I'm looking at 2030 for that same pivot point, if you will,
Yeah.
in leadership. I think we're looking at 2030, and the leadership there is going to have to be multi-generational. So
Yes.
how will Gen Z, who has this native technology environment, this who is native to hybrid work, their education, as you pointed out rightly, started that, et cetera. How are they going to deal with the last tail end of the boomers? How I can see how they'll work with amongst themselves. I can see how
Hmm.
they reach up to technologically progressive millennials. I can see how they will reach down to alpha. That won't even be an issue in my opinion. There might be
Agreed.
some values challenges back and forth overall. But do you see them reaching up towards the tail end of the boomers, or do you see that as they saying, "Ah, they're out of here"?
I actually do.
The boomers through AI saying, "Tech, who cares? I've got this other stuff and I've learned to use it, and it's better than your computer."
For me, I see they, again, this is just the lens of I've had that incredible example of these three, or excuse me, four interns that I've worked with, is they do value learning and that curiosity of that foundation. So I do feel they're going to take the time, and I've seen it, to learn from a variety of different generations on what is like how do things get done to help them, but they're also using that to then think how I can improve that or integrate that with, with technology or AI or what have you. So to be able to improve, excuse me, their with integrating that technology, they need to know that history and that background. So that connection, I think, will happen if certain individuals, I think sometimes as folks get older, we tend to have more of a closed mindset versus a growth mindset. As long as people have that open mindset and wanting and willingness to share ideas and have that knowledge transfer, that's when that's going to be really fascinating to see how that transfers down and then they take it as that, especially with AI blowing up right now. That's very exciting.
I agree with that. I think there'll be some good take up. I'm going to go back to basics though, and kind of when I went to college. Uh, I come from a little farming and ranching food production family, originally from Texas and moved to California and now back to Texas again. So, the farmers kind of have a way of putting things that are simple. And talking to my dad when I went off to college, and he said, Frank, the only thing you need to learn in college is how to make decisions. That was it. And then after a couple of years, I got kicked out of my first college. I came back, had to explain that to him. And he said, "Well, what'd you learn?" Because I was asked to leave this college. It was the '60s. What can I say? I was like a hippie freak. And, he asked me, "What'd you learn?" And I said, "Well, decisions have consequences."
Ooh,
And he said, "Well, remember it." And he walked away.
yeah,
So I think as we talk about technology and we talk about the integration of AI and we talk about all these things, when it really comes down to life, it comes down to your capacity to make decisions, let the good ones run, and cut the bad ones short. And if you can do that, regardless of what generation you are, regardless
true.
of work format you're in, you're probably going to be okay.
Agreed.
Um, uh, so, as exciting as all this change is and all the adjustments we're making and all that, from an old guy's point of view, maybe applying wisdom instead of technology, it really comes down to whatever you're doing. If you can learn to make decisions and learn to cut your bad ones short, because you'll make bad ones, and you let your
Yeah.
good ones run long, everything will be okay. And
True.
I think we can get things very simple and not overly complicate all this work transformation and all these things we're doing. It's just stuff, but ultimately it comes down to your decision making. Um,
Yep.
so I want to thank you very much, Kari, very much for your insights, for JLL and the tremendous work that you guys do. I've worked with JLL forever on a number of projects, and absolutely have the total respect. And really thank you for your insights, and look forward to maybe working on some articles or some things of that nature. We can really distill some of this down and add that to your what you're doing with all work.
That would be amazing, Frank. I really appreciate this opportunity and your time today on talking about the future of work.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
If it's impacting the future of work, it's in the Future of Work podcast by allwork.space.